Thank you so much for tuning in. We are very excited to be changing up the way we do our open houses this week. We figure we'll do kind of a pre-recorded interview session. We know with COVID, your schedules are changing, your kids' schedules changing, and this way you can come back in a stress-free environment and get all the information that you may want about this house in your own time. If you don't know, my name is Victoria Brown. I'm the buyer specialist on the Harris Sinclair team, and I'm joined today by Allison Harris, the Harris of the Harris Sinclair team, and we're going to chat about her gorgeous listing at 338 East 46th Street. So before we get into it, I'm going to kind of go over the basics for those that don't know. As I said, the address is 338 East 46th Street, so that puts it right inside Chatham Crescent in Ardsley Park. Very highly sought after part of town. It's currently listed at $879,000, 5 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. It was built in 1920. It's a gorgeous craftsman style home, and it has a carriage house in the back, and both are pretty much set on just under 0.3 acres. So all that being said, if you've done any research about this home, you might have seen that it was actually featured on For the Love of Old Homes. So that in itself kind of tells you how spectacular of a house this is. Allison, tell us what you think stands out about this house among the others around it in the area.
Well, this house is like a quintessential craftsman bungalow. And when you approach it, it looks much smaller than it actually is when you go in. It's one of those kind of deceiving houses. And it's painted in traditional craftsman colors. The body of the house is a really nice, like a forest mossy green. And then it has the red tones and creams on the exterior, which is totally age appropriate for the age of the home. It was built in the 1930s, which is, right kind of in the heart of all of that. But I think probably what makes it most stand out on its lot the most, not only the colors and everything, but the lot is planted in a really natural state way. So there's a lot of privacy. When you sit on the porch, you're kind of behind some trees and you feel not exposed. It's a corner lot, and sometimes those can feel very, out in the open and exposed, and you just don't get that feeling at all at this house.
Yeah, it is a really great privacy lot. So I looked at some pictures of what it looked like before the seller bought it, and it looks like a totally different home. So
yeah,
what are the
absolutely.
seller's favorite things they did to the house?
Well, I want to tell you a little bit about the history of the house. So not only was it obviously there's the history of the house since it was built, right? But in the most recent history, some folks bought the home while their child was going to SCAD. And they used the main house as like a bunk house, sort of. So there was a bunch of SCAD kids that rented out the individual rooms. And then they had a dorm mom that was in the carriage house in the rear, who, from what I understand, cooked the meals and did all of that stuff. So, the house was,
nice.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I wish I got to live in a beautiful craftsman house in college, but I didn't. So that's kind of the most recent history. And so these folks, the owners who own it now, bought it from the parents of that child who was done at SCAD. So the house definitely, I don't want to say it was downtrodden, because it certainly wasn't, but it hadn't been updated for the modern family, which it now very much has. Mm-hmm. Some of my favorite things they've done is, I think the whole kitchen renovation is absolutely beautiful. It's light and airy. There's windows all over the place in there. The countertops are beautiful. The range they put in is a gorgeous gas range. It's got a beautiful hood above it. It's by a company named Blue Star, and the actual range itself is this beautiful cobalt blue color. But the quartz countertops, and even down to the drawer pulls, I love everything they did in that kitchen. And then also my other favorite things that are sort of original to the house are the little, there's a little Harry Potter closet under the stairs, which I think is so cute. There's an original built-in at the end of the stair hallway going into one of the downstairs bedrooms. And then the coffered ceilings, you can actually see them in the picture. You're sitting in the virtually staged living room of that house. And so those coffered ceilings that you see there are repeated not only in that room, but also in the dining room. And then the thing I didn't mention is the library ladder. So Victoria, point that way. Let's see if it goes the right direction. Nope, the other way.
Oh, wait, there we go.
Okay, from where Victoria is sitting, where she's pointing, there's an old sunroom And that sunroom has been lined with bookcases and has one of those rolly library ladders, which always makes me think of Beauty and the Beast.
It is really fun. I love that feature. I have to say, I think the kitchen's probably my favorite too. It's so bright, and then
Yeah,
it really makes that blue stove just pop.
it
So
does.
after all those renovations, well, before all those renovations,
Mhm.
what were the details that really drew the sellers to that home?
So I actually called them. Thank you for sending me these questions ahead of time because I had the
Yes.
opportunity to have a great conversation with them today about these things. And they said the things that drew them to the house are the lot itself. So it's one of the best lots, I think, in the Crescent. It's situated on, there's basically the house is sort of in the middle. And then there's, probably 30 feet or so between the house and the road that's kind of perpendicular to 46th right there. So there's a lot of big buffer. There's a fence. There's lots of foliage. And then on the other side where the carriage house is set back, there's another big side yard. So, you've got these two huge side yards that really make you feel, private. And it also gives you a lot of like just breathing room from, the hustle and bustle of Ardsley Park. And then they love just all of the original details. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 original built-ins in the property. And those really, really called to them. And they incorporated all of them into the renovation. None of that stuff was removed.
Mm-hmm. And it really flows nicely with all the updates they did. So you were
Yeah.
mentioning the big lot that the property is located on. How many lots is that? We know it's just under 0.3 acres, but how many
I would
lots?
have to look at the tax card. It's either 3.5 or 4. So Ardsley Park lots are like 45 feet wide in most cases. In some places they're 60. And so it's not uncommon for a house to be on a lot and a half in Ardsley Park. That's fairly common. For it to be on 4 full lots, that is definitely much more unusual. Because not only do you have the regular depth of an Ardsley Park lot, but then you also have all of the width.
Mm-hmm. I will say, if you look at the pictures for those watching, it already looks like a lot of lot space, but it's even bigger in person, kind of like Allison was saying before. So big, in fact, you could put a pool, correct?
Yeah, actually, so I would put the pool on the interior lot side in front of the carriage house, kind of where the parking is currently, or not where the parking is, but behind the parking, there's a huge green space there. And you could put a really significantly sized pool. But if you wanted something even less, if you wanted it like less sunny and, the other side, behind that little office library we were talking about, there's a door back there, and that takes you to a really nice garden space too. So there's 2 great opportunities to put in a pool if you wanted. And then the other thing to consider too is frequently when you put in a pool, you eat up all your yard space and it's gone, right? Like my backyard is
Mm-hmm.
basically all swimming pool. It's swimming pool, fire pit, and patio, and that's all I've got. At
Mm-hmm.
this house, you could do all of that stuff and still have an entire garden, or whatever it is you wanted to do on the other side. So there's just lots of opportunities to develop the exterior to whatever, COVID paradise you might like.
Mm-hmm. So going back to that carriage house in the back, I know that it used to have kind of like the SCAD student mom live back there. What about
Yeah,
the current sellers? Did they ever rent it out?
they never did rent it out. They discussed it a number of times. We've discussed it, and I think that it would easily rent in the 1,000 to 1,200 range. The thing that's really interesting about that carriage house, it has a couple of things that are really cool about it. Number one, it's all on ground level. So many carriage houses in Ardsley Park are above garages, which makes it difficult for elder people. Like if you wanted your mother-in-law to move in, if she can't navigate stairs, that may not be the best option. Because it's all one level, it's just 1 or 2 stairs up. It's really good for anybody who you may want back there. It doesn't preclude anyone based on their mobility. And then in addition to that, not only does it have a bedroom, but it also has a living room, kitchen, and bathroom. So it's not like a studio. It very much feels like a little apartment.
Mm-hmm. So say I was a buyer and I had kids, what school district would we be looking at with this house?
The elementary school is Jacob G. Smith. And then in addition to that, there are a number of private schools that are within walking distance. I can think of the Habersham School, as long as their campus remains at the whole park. I know there's talk about moving that, and I think they are going to move it at some point. I don't think it's moved yet. And then Blessed Sacrament is also right there. You can also walk to Charles Ellis, which is not private. It is a public Montessori option, but that doesn't have an attendance zone at all. That is all lottery. But you can walk to all of those schools. And then if you happen to have a high schooler, also does not have an attendance zone, Savannah Arts Academy is just a few blocks away. But yeah, the elementary school that's zoned for this area is Jacob G. Smith.
Going back to the carriage house, so the listing says that the square footage is about 3,752. Does that include the carriage house square footage as well?
It does. So the carriage house square footage is 576 square feet. That's the size of the carriage house. So we included the square footage in the total square footage, but the bedroom and bathroom that are in the carriage house are not counted in the bedroom and bathroom outlined in the listing. So the house is 5 bedroom, 3.5 bath. And then the carriage house is an additional 1 bedroom, 1 full bath. So if you put a pool in, that would also make a really nice pool house or guest house.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. So all that being said, it's no secret, like we mentioned, that Ardsley Park is a very popular place that people try to live in Savannah. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it's such a popular neighborhood?
Well, I think the historic nature of the homes is very appealing to people. I also think it's very walkable in terms of just walking the dog and stuff, but you can also walk to Daffin Park. You can walk to the mall that's in front of the Savannah Arts Academy. That's a beautiful, like that palm tree lined space. And you can even walk to Habersham Village from this location. It's probably, I don't know, a mile and some change, but it's certainly walkable. There, of course, there's bar food, bar burritos. Bar food is putting in a sports bar. I just heard that in the village.
Oh.
So that's going to go where Marco's used to be. You can get ice cream at the Candy Place. Of course, we have everyone's favorite 5-spot, Hirano's,
Yes.
Bella's with the best breadsticks in the world.
Yes.
And then I'd be remiss if I did not mention Habersham Beverage. It's right there as well. And Red and White Market. So there's a lot of
really great barbecue.
Yes, they do have great barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me wonder why I take all the time to smoke pork butts when I can just buy a beautiful, gorgeous one there for $20.
It's not hard to buy one when you're there. It makes the whole grocery store smell like barbecue.
Absolutely. And there's other great things in there too. You know, there's like Blend and Press bar, and there's some yoga, and there's Punch and Judy's and Bentley's Pet Stuff. I don't want to leave anybody else, but I love that little shopping corridor. And I think everybody else does as well. Oh, and then also too, even closer, you can get to Yaya's kitchen, which is at the corner of Habersham and 48th, I think, right there.
Yeah, that's another really good one. So also inside Ardsley Park is Chatham Crescent. Is there anything about it being inside Chatham Crescent that makes it extra special?
Well, I mean, Chatham Crescent is definitely more sought after than Ardsley Park. The price range is a little bit higher within the Crescent. And then in addition to that, the lots have a tendency to be bigger. The homes are larger. They're more estate like style homes. And then within the Crescent, so how the Crescent is shaped, it's a crescent, guys, but it's basically shaped like this. And this center is Atlantic Avenue, and that's where the mall is that leads up to the Savannah Arts Academy, which, if you know the history of Ardsley Park, did you know that was supposed to be a hotel?
Yes.
So it was supposed to be a hotel, and then the Depression hit, and it was a WPA project turned it instead to a high school. So that's a little trivia for you. So anyway, basically there's just this little kind of, crescent shaped space at the, I guess you'd call it the base of Ardsley Park. The Crescent is within Ardsley Park itself. And homes within the Crescent, it's definitely something that people look for sure.
Agreed. Well, that's pretty much all the questions that I have. I will drop Allison and I's contact information. If you see this video and you're interested in maybe the market around, if not this house in particular, we're happy to help you out. We are experts in the area. We would love to help fix you up with your next dream home. Thank you so much for joining us, Allison.
Or list your house.
Or list your house, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. We really do high-end photography, and we try to put your best foot forward and help you get the most for your house in the least amount of time with the least amount of effort for you. We'll do all the effort.
Agreed. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
For more information about this property or others in the area, you can contact me or Allison by phone or email, which has been provided here.